Guys, welcome back to my channel and time for another episode of Luke's Reviews. On today's video, we are off for another visit to the grid. Or should I actually say that the grid is finally going to be visiting us in Tron Ares. Two rival computing companies, Encom and Dillinger Systems, are on the brink of a monumental breakthrough as they are working to be able to bring digital constructs into our world permanently. The MacGuffin of this tech is the Permanence Code, something created by the missing Kevin Flynn. Dillinger's maniacal CEO has developed a state-of-the-art security program known as Ares, able to break into anything, supremely strong, and endlessly expendable. But as with all AI creations, Ares begins to grasp his own sense of sentience and realizes that his initial programming is no longer what he wants. Now, oddly enough, that little plot synopsis was quite difficult to put together, and that isn't necessarily because Tron Ares is some really complex narrative. It is because there are so many different moving parts to the story that to try and give you a summary and kind of touch on all of them, it's harder than it may sound. And yet, once the film is officially in motion, it is far simpler than that synopsis could have ever sounded. There's one aspect going into Tron Ares that I was really hoping the film would do right, and that is for me to actually and finally have a grasp on what the hell the grid is. If we cast our minds back to 1982, there's one aspect going into Tron Ares that I was really hoping the film would do right, and that is for me to actually and finally have a grasp on what the hell the grid is. If we cast our minds back to 1982, Tron hits cinemas, and it is a huge moment. This thing, albeit you look at it now and you might think it looks quite dated, this was revolutionary for its time. This was one of the first films that utilized CG pretty much for the entire film. It was incredibly audacious. And having only watched the film for the first time prior to seeing Ares, it is very clear that perhaps it was stretching a little too far and struggled to make the grid and overall concept in any way comprehensible. As for Tron Legacy, well, I think it's safe to say that that's less of a film and more of a 2-hour feature-length music video for a new Daft Punk album. Thankfully, I found that Tron Ares did a much better job in securing those foundations of how this world operates and how the grid functions. There is a brilliant sequence where one character is hacking into a server. Now, that may sound quite mundane of just watching a character furiously type away at a keyboard, but once you're then transported into the world of the grid, we see it through those eyes. We see it through a programmed group of soldiers who are infiltrating this security stronghold and having to fight off security forces, steal the data, and escape whilst remaining intact. It may sound embarrassing, but we are now 3 films into this series, and only now am I just kind of understanding what the grid is. Tron Ares also succeeds from a visual perspective. For a film that is so VFX heavy as this is, you really need a director who understands how visual effects work. More so because this is an action film as well, you need someone that isn't going to have the action get lost in amongst all of the CGI explosions and mechanisms. Director Joachim Rønning, you might not necessarily know of him, but he has done films such as Maleficent, Mistress of Evil. He did the 5th Pirates of the Caribbean films. Sure, they are not critically acclaimed movies, but in the eyes of Disney at least, he is a safe pair of hands who knows how to use a budget in the best way possible. And thanks to a relentless pace, aided, by the way, due to the fact that these characters can only stay within our world for 29 minutes before they de-res, which means that we are then treated to a continuous game of cat and mouse, and whenever the good guys or the bad guys de-res, spawn them back in, and the chase is back on. And therefore, there is never a dull moment in this film, or at least rarely does it ever slow. The action is as dazzling as it is thrilling. The light cycle chases are so cool but you've also got aerial combat sequences throughout the grid before you get to a big bombastic finale as a recognizer patrols through a city, and it's like towering over skyscrapers. Like, sometimes you just kind of have to sit back, appreciate what is happening in front of you, and go, yeah, that's sick. That's really cool. It is a must see in IMAX. And that isn't just for the amazing visuals, but to experience one of the best scores easily this year, one of the best scores I've heard in a long time, courtesy of 9 Inch Nails, whom some of you might know as Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross. This is just a hard techno synth metal extravaganza that will blow your eardrums clean from your ear canals. It has the heaviest bass imaginable, to the point where I was sat in my seat and my trouser legs were shaking and shuddering. Where Tron Ares doesn't find as much success is when you take a closer examination of the story and the dialogue. Despite me previously saying that it's not the easiest of plots to explain, once you are able to kind of just get a grip on like what we're telling here, it isn't the most original narrative in the world of an AI creation suddenly realizing that things aren't right. I mean, in this case, he turns good. We usually see instances where they turn bad. But it doesn't dare to be anything more than a fairly standard adventure. And doesn't include much critique or commentary on using AI systems in our real world, especially when you read the news today. The film could have at least addressed some of that. The dialogue is also pretty weak too. Some characters literally only exist for the purpose to spout exposition, not to mention that Ares' dialogue is particularly stilted, which doesn't necessarily help when you've got a very flat performance courtesy of Jared Leto. Now, I don't think Leto is miscast, but when you compare him to the likes of Greta Lee or Evan Peters, who are both in the film, he is largely overshadowed as an uninteresting presence. Jodie Turner-Smith, on the other hand, proved to be a formidable antagonist, adopting this Terminator-esque vibe whenever she was on screen. For anyone expecting Tron Ares to provide a dose of highbrow synesthesia, I think it might be worth checking your ticket stub again and looking at the movie that you've come to see. Sure, the narrative is more than a little wobbly, and the dialogue threatens to be that final domino that makes everything else crumble around it. But when you boil it down to, does it deliver on the gigantic blockbuster potential, then I'd wager that it definitely does. You whack a light cycle chase on screen, and you are hard pushed for that not to look cool. So I'm going to give Tron Ares a 7.5 out of 10. Anyway, guys, those were my thoughts on Tron Ares. Let me know, have you had a chance to see the film yet? What did you think? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Now, my question to you, I would like to know, we've had 3 of them now, but which is your favourite Tron movie? But that's all the time we have for today, so thank you very much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Hello, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have, make sure to click that like button, and if you aren't already, click that subscribe button too.